What does it say? LinkedIn doesn't allow us to go live more than 2 hours after the start time. The start time, what does this mean? My start time is noon. Oh no. Today, oh my goodness. How? Oh my goodness. Why does this say? Okay. Okay. All right. So,
Are you ready to break free from what's holding you back? Introducing Let It Go and Flourish, a transformative podcast that guides you toward becoming the best version of yourself professionally and personally. Each episode empowers you to release the limitations, fears, and old patterns that keep you stuck, while embracing the strategies and mindsets that lead to true success. Through powerful conversations and expert insights, you'll discover how to transform your career trajectory while maintaining inner balance. Build unshakable confidence in your abilities. Create meaningful relationships that support your growth. And master the art of letting go to make room for what serves you. Whether you're climbing the corporate ladder, building your dream business, or seeking deeper personal fulfillment, Let It Go and Flourish provides the guidance you need to thrive in all areas of life. Join our community of forward-thinking individuals who are ready to release what no longer serves them and step into their full potential. New episodes drop every Friday at 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time. Visit merlinclark.com to listen to the podcast and take the first step toward your extraordinary future. Remember, your greatest self emerges when you let go of who you think you should be and embrace who you truly are. Let it go and flourish. Release, renew, and rise.
hello to my amazing audience. Welcome to episode 9 of season 1 of the Let It Go and Flourish podcast show. I am your host, Merlin A. Clark, and I thank you for spending some time with me here today. If you are tuning in for the first time, Let It Go and Flourish is a transformative podcast that guides you to become the best version of yourself professionally and personally. The inspiration for the podcast came from my book, Let It Go and Flourish: Live a Life of Peace, Passion, and Purpose. And this is available on Amazon.com. However, you may purchase a signed copy directly from me for an additional cost of $5 to cover the shipping. Now, I've had some amazing guests on this show. And today, my friends, you are in for another special treat. Today, I have none other than Dr. Susan Johnson as my expert guest. Before I present her, though, let me tell you about this powerhouse. All right. Um, Dr. Susan Johnson is an experienced finance and operations people manager with 15 plus years of experience managing directors, managers, and individual contributors. After spending many years in finance and operations, she recognized the importance of following her passion and transitioning to human capital. I love that. And she has one of her favorite quotes here by Maya Angelou: "The need for change bulldozed a road down the center of my mind." During her management tenure, She consistently collaborated with human resources, supporting employee relations, recruiting, succession planning, organizational change management, and organizational development efforts. She is a people leader and mentor who is passionate about how human resources support its team members, assist team members transitioning through organizational changes, and promote the benefits of sustaining collaborative workplace. Here are some key highlights of her career. Encouraging team members to step outside of their comfort zones to pursue their passion. She served as a sponsor and mentor, assisting others in pursuing higher level positions, promoting accountability in decision making, stressing the significance and relevance of continuing education and training, mentoring upper class undergraduate students preparing for their transition from the halls of academia to the professional work world. Now, during Susan's tenure at Aon, she served in the following roles: managing director at Aon, which was preceded by numerous managerial positions, project lead, manager and sponsor, business resource group chairperson, cross team collaborator, organizational change manager, strategic business partner. She earned a Master of Science degree in finance from Loyola University of Maryland and MBA from Morgan State University Graves School of Business and Management, and her final degree, her PhD in general psychology from the Grand Canyon University. She is on her way to make more impactful contribution. But before I present her to you, I want to share briefly how we met. And, but you know what? Susan, welcome to the Let It Go and Flourish podcast show. I know you are a very busy person and you just got back from an international trip where you did some consulting work. But before we delve into that, I want to share, you know, what Susan describes as a chance encounter, how we met.
Hello, Marilyn. Thank you so much for the invitation. And as you said, we literally met through a chance encounter. And it's always been my thought that we were sort of like that textbook case for chance encounters, and not knowing how that will evolve. It was many years ago. At the time, we were both young single mothers, maybe not so young. We were single mothers, and we had both daughters that were about a year apart, who we were both introducing them to sports. And because we lived in the same community, we would periodically run into each other. My daughter was one who loved sports, but she was also a social butterfly. Your daughter was a social butterfly as well. So they connected. And it was during one of those evenings where we were sitting outside of the gymnastics room, watching through the big glass window them practice, we began to talk about work. And at the time, you had a recent shift in your professional career, and I shared there was an opportunity where I was working at the time, and I wasn't sure if you were interested, but by all means, I wanted to make you aware of it. And let's just say the rest is history. This was after, I believe, at least a year or two of us continuously crossing paths, if not on the soccer field, or on the gymnastics field, or even at the swimming pool. We would
Yes,
see each other only to be surprised that we literally lived about a minute apart.
a minute apart. Interesting. It is a chance encounter. And yes, you shared at the time, I was at gymnastics class, I shared I was in between successes.
Mhm.
And you shared with me, and I became part of the Aon family. And I remained there for 12 years
Wow,
until,
didn't
yes,
realize it had been that long.
yes, until I decided to go on my own, you know. And after I left Aon, we met periodically
We
for
did.
lunch. Ever so
Yes.
often we met
hmm
for lunch, so this is amazing. We never know when our paths and how our paths will cross.
And Merlin, just to take that a step further for chance encounters, you don't recognize what you may view at the time as a small decision, how impactful that decision will evolve into. I
Mhm.
remember when I brought to the team the opportunity to charter a Toastmasters chapter.
I was about to talk about that. Great.
And the reason I wanted to bring that to the attention of the team, because I looked at Toastmasters as a vehicle for pulling some out of their comfort zone of public speaking. And if it's in a smaller forum, you will develop that confidence to pursue opportunities. Oftentimes, people are very apprehensive because they're afraid to put themselves out there. They're afraid to open themselves up. They're afraid to speak in front of others. And
Yes.
I was just totally blown away by the responsiveness to having Toastmasters as part of our I should say, extracurricular activities.
Mhm.
And you were one of a handful of people who fully embraced the Toastmasters concept and literally ran with it. And look
I
where
did.
that just one decision has
Yes.
elevated you beyond, I'm sure, even your imagination.
You are so correct because having been part of the Aon, our club was called the Mill Run Circle Toastmasters Club.
hmm
And then the numbers start dwindling down. And then Francis and I decided, well, we need a community club.
hmm
And that community, Owings Mills Community Toastmasters Club, is still up and running. We
hmm
had an in person meeting this past Wednesday. So I really want to give Susan credit for a lot of things that have, how I have evolved from having met her. She introduced me to Toastmasters. And it's through Toastmasters I was inspired to become a certified speaker. And I joined the Maxwell leadership team and I became a certified speaker, trainer, coach, and a certified disc behavioral analyst. And you never know where one encounter, how it's going to lead. Because being a part of Toastmasters, I met other people who were coaches and I asked questions. We were just talking about how you need to have three sets of people in your lives: those from whom you learn, those your peers at the same level, you learn from each other, but those that are below you, not beneath you, but below you,
hmm
you can teach, who will learn from you. And so this is just an amazing, amazing opportunity. And I'm so glad that we have a chance to do this along. I mean, I scheduled Susan since February. So because I have a speaker each month. And so here we are. And Susan, you just got back from an international trip.
hmm
Would you like to share a little about that? Because now you have transitioned from career to consulting. And I think this trip was part of the consultant business. So, how, you know, what did you do? Who did you
hmm
serve?
Absolutely. So, just to talk a little bit about my transition, um, I never in a million years considered myself to be entrepreneurial. I began working in corporate America while I was still in college, and I always viewed myself as a big company employee.
Mhm.
I had just unbelievable opportunities presented to me, for me, and I had phenomenal mentors every step of the way. My mentors were just instrumental in helping me to navigate my career. But I had someone who reached out to me after I made the transition from corporate America to decide what's next. I felt like I was not following my passion. I
Mhm.
needed to find what was next. And it was suggested that I transition into consulting. And initially I thought, I'm not a consultant. That's not me. I'm not going to do that. But it kept weighing on me. And this person and I would periodically connect and they would talk to me about becoming a consultant. And I still brushed it off until the opportunity literally landed right in front of me to serve as a consultant. And I walked into this opportunity not really knowing what to expect. And I think to some degree, I had imposter syndrome, not recognizing the impact of my corporate career. And so I accepted the opportunity and I prayed on it. I prayed on it because I don't make any decisions on my own. I learned a long time ago. Sometimes you have to sit Susan down and you have to ask God to navigate your path for you. And so that's what I did. And this opportunity has been incredible. As you mentioned, I just did return from the western end of Canada, and I was there to help. I'm in the midst of helping with a business operations transformation initiative. And what an experience it has been. I have been consulting since early spring of 2025. I get the opportunity to work with an incredible team. I have literally entered a career path that was not part of my career journey. It was a complement. And what I have found is that my career journey literally complements the career path I'm on today. And
Wow.
so I'm learning a lot. I'm having a blast. No 2 days are the same. The opportunities to learn and grow are just, they're happening so very fast. Sometimes I have to sit down and go, whew, how did I get here?
Wow.
But that's, you know, when you learn to take a chance, and it really was about taking a chance. I had worked in corporate for decades. I was very comfortable. I had a phenomenal group that I worked with. I had a team that I always felt had my back, and I always wanted my team to feel as though I had their back. But there came a point, Marilyn, when I realized I'm not passionate about what I'm doing. I need to follow my passion. I need to have that excitement when I get up in the morning. I need to feel that I am contributing to something much, much bigger than me. I
Mm.
needed to feel as though I'm not going to work. I'm starting the journey for what's ahead. And so I took a leap of faith. And I
Mhm.
have to share, about maybe 30 days after I took a leap of faith, I said, what the heck have you done? Are you crazy? You walk away from a comfort zone. But what I realized is that I was not comfortable in a comfort zone.
Mhm.
I needed to feel as though I was part of something big. And I
Yeah.
wasn't sure what that was. And I took the time to figure that out. I spent a considerable amount of time just really looking inward to identify what motivates me, what drives me, how are my experiences able to benefit someone else. And so with that, I literally watched my current environment evolve.
Mhm.
And I feel really, really good about it today.
Great. Fantastic. That's just an amazing story. Passion. Because when we are not passionate about what we do, it's a job, you know? Anyone can have a job. And sometimes after we make that decision to pivot, we sometimes question ourselves, but you're right. Growth begins at the end of our comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Us. Now, share briefly. You've had a long tenure at Aon before transitioning to consultancy.
Mhm.
And during your tenure there, I observed how you interacted with your leadership team as well as the associate. And It was exemplary. During my tenure at Aon, I've always shared with my colleagues that your behavior towards everyone was exemplary since my departure. And as part of my business, I have met so many people who speak of toxic work environments and a negative workplace culture. The name of my company is Mac Leadership Solutions LLC, and my tagline is We Are Moral Authority. Now, I've spoken frequently on the meaning of moral authority leadership, which includes we do not need a title to lead.
Mhm.
Moral authority leadership is the highest level of authority, highest level of leadership, and it's based on recognition from the people that they lead. These leaders are competent, courageous, consistent, empathetic, and trustworthy. And I see all of that in you. So, share briefly with us your thoughts on leaders who embrace and practice empathy towards their teams.
You know, Merlin, life is hard and it's full of challenges. Every day we just don't know what's around the corner. As leaders, we are expected to lead by example, but we encounter the same challenges that everyone else has. The
Mhm,
only difference is that we have team members that are looking to us for
mhm,
direction. They're looking to us with regards to how we handle situations.
mhm,
I have been fortunate throughout my career, and I shared this before, to have incredible mentors. I think back to my first role as a manager. I was 25 years old, and I was literally taken out of my comfort zone, literally out of the state, out from my parents' home to another state to be a manager. And at the time, the person who provided that opportunity to me for me went on to become the CEO for a global insurance brokerage firm.
mhm,
But during that experience, he showed me what leadership was all about. We were in an office of roughly 60 colleagues, and he had a standing practice. Every morning, he would walk through the office and greet everyone. And he would spend anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes talking to everyone about something that was unique to them. And I'm thinking, wow, this is, at the time, this is the person who is leading this
mhm,
office.
mhm.
That person went on to lead a corporate entity.
Mhm.
And quick story, just to show you how relatable he was and how this wasn't superficial. I mentioned I moved out of state and I was literally just leaving my parents' home. I had just graduated from college. I had a little teeny tiny apartment and I was actually moved in by my family the weekend before I started work. And I went out and bought this humongous sofa that, of course, I hadn't measured beforehand. And the sofa would only fit through the door and it was stuck in my kitchen. And I remember a few days after I started work, I was in the lunchroom, and the office head would periodically come into the lunchroom and sit down and spend a couple minutes talking to all of us at the table. And he looked at me and he said, "So, Susan, you're all moved in. Are you good?" And I said, "I am." I said, "But I just have one issue. My sofa is stuck in the middle of my kitchen because it's too big to go through the door." And the office leader turned to another colleague in the room who was a senior level manager at the time and said, "Hey, what's your schedule look like this afternoon?" And the person said, I have some time. And he said, "Susan, my boss said, you live pretty close to the office, don't you?" I said, "I do. I'm about 15 minutes away." He said to the leader, "Come on, let's go down and move Susan's sofa." This is the office leader. Well, what I learned is that they both went to college together and they worked for an office moving a moving company during college. And
Oh,
they literally walked in 3 turns, my sofa was in my living room.
wow.
That was leadership. And that had nothing to do with the business. That had to do with an empathetic leader who
Yes.
recognized the people that work with him and for him are what really matters. That happened many years ago, and that never left me. It was always forward in my mind with regard to what it means to be a leader.
Wow. And that is so impressive. And I hope that he's listening to this and that others are listening, emerging leaders and even seasoned leaders are hearing these stories because that happened years ago and
Many
it
years ago.
stays with you. So that's so important. Empathy is such a vital part of leadership and it builds trust. you know um, you are not only responsible for the financial operations of the accounting center, but for the well being of your staff. Tell us a little about that.
I learned a long time ago, and this again came from my mentoring experiences, that you have to give your team members an opportunity to grow. You have to show them the world doesn't end if you make a mistake.
Mhm.
You have to encourage them to grow. Now, if the seed is planted and that's what they want, then you're there for them. There are those that are very comfortable where they are. And it was always my job to determine exactly where you were. And I view that as you're a steady state, and we always need those steady hands that say, I'm good, I like what I'm doing, I'm comfortable. But then there are others that are, well, I can see myself here or there. And so I would probe. It was it was a little bit of a running joke in the office that if you saw me walking through the office and I had a chair, where was I going? Because
Mhm.
I would just pull a chair up next to someone and sit there and just chat. And these were primarily our individual contributors. And I would say, I wanted, how are things going? And first they would be like, what are you doing here? And I would say, it's important for me to understand how things are going because
Mhm.
you're front line. You're front and center.
Mhm.
And talking to these colleagues really gave them a comfort level of, this is not Susan, the head of the center. This is Susan, the person who's interested in me as a
Mhm.
person. And
Yeah.
that was something I learned right out the gate as a manager. It was important to really be connected to my team and for
Mhm.
my team to recognize when I say I'm part of the team, I'm just the person that has to have the bigger shoulders when things roll downhill. The fact of the matter is, I'm here to support you because we don't operate in a Lone Ranger environment. We are
Mhm.
part of the team, and that means the entirety of the team. And I'm here to support you. And I would often encourage people to think about what's next for you a year from now? What's
Mhm.
next for you 5 years from now? And
Mhm.
how do you plan to get there? And
Mhm.
I would always caution that when you share with me what you are interested in, I'm going to do my part to help you get there. So
Yeah,
think carefully because I'm just a firm believer of stepping outside of your comfort zone. It's required for growth.
it is. It is required for growth. And some people really haven't given thought to what's next until someone probes. So it's good that you do that. Some have it written down and they knew a long time ago and they're pursuing that. But for others, so it's good that they had a leader like you who would do just that for them. So that's just amazing. Um,
Sometimes, Marilyn, people may not be in the right role. I
mhm,
always would look for what I call the diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
And I can think of numerous opportunities or numerous instances during my time as managing director where we had individuals who were in one role, but they expressed interest in another role. And
Mm.
I would be there in the background to help them kind of navigate that path to
Mm-hmm.
first of all recognize what they truly brought to the table and
Mm-hmm.
to step out of their comfort zone. And even today, and I'm talking years down the road, I still have a handful of people who were in individual contributor roles many years ago who have gone on to do phenomenal things and leaders in their own right. And
Yeah.
they will drop me a line to say, Susan, I just wanted to let you know where I am today. And that is such a blessing because I feel as though I was put here, my purpose was to help others navigate their paths. And it's a great feeling.
That's wonderful. That is so wonderful, to give of yourself and for people to be receptive. Now, you were not, what was the inspiration? What was your inspiration for pursuing? You have two master's degree, but what was your inspiration for pursuing your final degree?
Let's say, I don't know if it's my final degree. I say that because it's a running joke in my family that I'm just a professional student. I'll be going to school forever. But pursuing my PhD was a long-term goal. That goal came about many years ago. I think even as an undergraduate. And the rationale behind it, I am a long-term planner and I am a really big advocate of foundation. And I don't believe in retirement. I grew up in a household where my parents never talked about retirement. Now, eventually they did, but they never talked about it. And so I looked at my career legacy as at some point transitioning into academia. And I wanted to have the credentials that would allow me to teach at the university level, at the research university level. And I looked into pursuing my PhD many, many years ago, but at the time, you had to attend full time. It was in person. You didn't have the conveniences of technology and the flexibility you have today. And so my plan was to pursue my PhD once I transitioned out of corporate America. But some years ago, and we started this conversation talking about chance encounters.
Mhm.
I went to a wedding with my husband. It just so happens it was in Canada. And during the wedding reception, the father of the bride, after he was thanking everyone for coming, he talked about his daughter and how very proud he was of her to be not only planning a wedding, she was also rehabbing a house and she was also pursuing a PhD. And my antennas went up when I heard that. And so it just so happens as the weekend was winding down, we ran into the bride and groom. And I talked to her about her doctoral journey. And I was so excited to hear that you actually had a little bit more flexibility than you had many years before. Now,
Yes.
remember, I had not planned to do this until way down the road,
Mhm.
but on the drive back from Toronto, I
Mhm.
literally researched PhD programs and I began to email universities. And 2 days later, I had my first interview for my PhD. And I had not, it could not have fallen into place. I literally felt like it was a head spinner because I did not realize I was ready But when the opportunity was there, I prayed about this, and that little voice said, now is the time you're ready. And so I earned my PhD. I finished my program in December of 2023, and it has been life altering for me. And now that is a checkbox that I have achieved that credential that I set out to achieve many, many years ago.
Wonderful, wonderful. I remember when after I left Aon, we would meet periodically for lunch. I said, "So when do I start calling you Dr. Susan?" So now we can call her Dr. Susan. Um, that's a great story. And I hope that the audience is getting this, that you can start at any time and be willing to shift. We may have a plan for doing something at a specific time, and then for one reason or the other, opportunities become available and we can shift at any time.
You
And
you
there's no perfect time to start, but now. Don't wait for perfection.
absolutely.
It's about progress.
You don't realize how yesterday prepares you for tomorrow.
Yes.
And that is something that I learned a long time ago. Never to discount the experiences,
Hmm?
the encounters, the
Yeah.
opportunities that come your way, because you don't know how collectively they will benefit you as you move forward.
And that is so true because when I look back even at my own career, I lived in New York for 16 years. I went to college in New York. I worked in the financial district. I was introduced into the mutual fund industry. I went there when I was a temp attending college at nights, and I went just for a day, and it became 2 months. Then he hired me as his retirement plan representative. Then, when the business closed, I transitioned to Donaldson, Lofkin and Jenrette under their investment management company, and they were looking for someone with a mutual fund background. So I was the perfect person, and I stayed there for several years until I moved to Maryland, commuted to Washington, D.C. I was working for American Security Bank as a private banker. Some people call it professional bankers, some say private bankers. But all of those experiences, then I transitioned to T. Rowe Price and had several positions there, including introduction to corporate training there and business analyses. And here's what happens now. As a leadership and life coach, I have all that experience to
Mhm.
help my life coach clients. I
Absolutely.
have that. So it's nothing accidental about where I was at any stage of my life. Wherever I am at this moment, I am strategically placed there. It's all about strategy and how I can help someone.
And all of those experiences prepared you for today.
They all do. They all do. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is wasted. So this is just an amazing ride. Um, Let me ask you this, Susan. What, if anything, do you miss about the work you did before transitioning to consultancy?
I would say probably the daily interaction, and I don't mean through a computer screen. When the pandemic hit and we all had to go to our respective homes, that was a challenge for me. That was a
Mhm.
big challenge because I was so accustomed to taking my hour and 15-minute drive to work. I did for many years.
Mhm.
And I would walk through the doors of the office. I would greet individuals. Um, I was always at the coffee station longer than I should have been. Um, you learn so much just talking, just and listening.
Mhm.
I, as a manager, always had an open door policy. Um, and I meant that because my door was very rarely closed. And
Mhm.
having an open door policy meant I wanted you to have a comfort level to
Mhm.
to to come in and talk to me. But oftentimes I would be caught at the coffee station. I'd be caught in the middle of the hall talking to someone. It was a standard practice for me. If there was information to be shared, um, I would walk out in the middle of the hall and ask the groups to all come together. And if I see people way down the hall, I'd encourage them to come up closer. I miss that.
Mhm.
I grew my career as a people manager, being a people leader.
Yes.
I always really embraced working with others to sometimes help them step outside the little box they were in,
Mhm.
and the motivation and the
Mhm.
collaboration. And so the one thing I would say that I miss about working directly as an employee
Mhm.
is that constant collaboration. I'm very fortunate in my current consulting role to work with a team who makes me feel like I'm part of the team.
Great.
So that is a blessing. I do not feel like the outsider. I feel like I'm a member of the team. That more so I think I do to myself,
Mhm.
because I know that I am the outsider. I'm there for a purpose, but at the same time, that doesn't preclude me from being the people leader that I am and still helping to motivate and encourage others that are part of the team that I'm working with.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm a people person too. I love the interaction, and I struggled to at the during the pandemic and having to make that transition. And I'm a solopreneur and I work from home. My business is, I'm in my office at home right now, but I make a concerted effort to network with people, network with
Mhm.
organization, the chambers of commerce and such organizations. I love that. I love the people interaction. It gives me energy and I love being around other people. Now, I thank you so much for being here. But before we leave, I want to ask you this. How are you enjoying the latest addition to your family? I know how much I'm enjoying my role as a Mimi to three lovable, amazing babies from one is the oldest is 5 going on 6 and the youngest is 18 months. So, how are you enjoying that role as a new grandmother? You shared with me that she's now 7 months old today.
Yes, yes.
What name do you answer to?
We're still trying to figure that one out. My
Okay.
daughter and I have a difference of opinion on what I'm going to be called, but I am absolutely loving it. I am a new grandmother with a 7-month-old today granddaughter who just has totally captured my heart. Um, it's I just recently realized that now I have a legacy. There is a new generation,
Yes.
and it just hit me like, wow, we now have the next generation. And to to be in this position, number one, is a blessing. Uh, Children are God's gift, and it's a blessing. And to be able to see life as a grandmother, there's nothing like it, and I'm thrilled every day, just so excited.
I feel it. I feel it. And I was sharing with you. Mine live a minute from my house. So I see them almost every day. And that's a joy when they come through the door and everybody's they're vying for the attention. Who am I going to pick up first? And it's just amazing. So I'm glad you're enjoying that role.
Yes, I
It's a
am.
different role from being a mother. And sometimes my daughter said, okay, I couldn't do that. So why is he doing that? Why are you allowing him to do that? So it's a different role, different mindset. And I'm loving it. And I'm glad you're enjoying that as well.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So what is your next step? If our audience needs to contact you, they may contact you on LinkedIn.
Absolutely, I'm on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
I periodically go out on LinkedIn. I'm very, very busy these days.
Mhm.
I am continuing to evolve. I began writing a book on my leadership experiences maybe about a year ago. And I was initially in a hurry to write this book. And someone very profoundly said to me, your chapter is still evolving.
Mm,
I hope you're taking good notes to include in your book. And
yeah.
I went, wow, why am I in a hurry to finish my book? And
Mhm.
so I put my book to the side, and periodically I'll go and write another chapter and
Yes.
write another chapter. So that is the next chapter evolving for me. At the same time, I am very active with the Society for Industrial Organizational Psychology. I am, this will be my second year working with the Training and Education Committee as one of the committee members. And that is, I look at that literally as opening up that next chapter for me. It's one of the reasons why I said, with regards to my last degree, I'm not sure I'm not sure if the classroom's seen the last of me yet,
Okay.
because I am truly a lifelong learner. I live it, I breathe it, and I'm just, I pray for direction. I learned a long time ago, Merlin, stop trying to control my destiny.
Mhm.
Um, my destiny is leading me in the path I should follow. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's best for us not to get in our own way, but to let destiny lead our paths. And that's the approach that I'm taking.
Fantastic. Great approach. I've learned that lesson as well. I was sharing with you early, you know, I have to ask God, is this what you want me to do? Because oftentimes I get an idea and I jump at it, but then I have to step back and say, okay, you need to ask for directions. Is this the right path to follow? All right. So, Susan, I want to thank you for being part of the Let It Go and Flourish podcast. And I look forward to more collaboration with you. And before I close, I want to leave our audience with um, some information on my Max Success Academy. And here we go.
Thank you, Merlin.
Hello. I am Merlin Clark. And as the owner of Mac Leadership Solutions, I know you're driven for growth. The Mac Success Academy is your launchpad to capture those explosive moments and achieve the success you crave. For less than your daily coffee habit at $17 a month, you will gain access to live training, action-oriented teachings, and a library of digital courses that are written, audio, or video. Don't miss out on this investment in yourself. It's the key to unlocking the best year of your life. At under $1 a day, you'll gain the tools and strategies to dominate this year and beyond. Remember, lasting transformation demands action. If you yearn for more success, growth, happiness, and stability, the Mac Success Academy is your answer. It's time to stop wishing and start thriving. Join us today.